forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
I feel that justice was not served. Because Sagon Penn is a black man, he is free today. If he were white, I think he would have been charged or found guilty of all the crimes committed.
Based on his own personal interpretation that his life was in danger. He was of the impression that he had to do what he did to save his life. Had nothing to do with pride, had nothing to do with anything except survival.
Boom, I said, I couldn't believe it. He punched me, and then the other one, he started coming at me. I said, please, don't, what's going on? Why you guys doing this? Why you guys doing this? What's the matter? What's the matter? I didn't do nothing. What's the matter? And then the other one, I couldn't believe it. He reached down into his holster and pulled out the billy club. And I said, wow, I can't believe this. Like if he wanted to just kill me, he just could have just shot me and put me on my misery if he like hates me or something for whatever reason. But then he just seemed like they was trying to kill me, but they wanted me to feel a lot of pain first.
Count one, the charge of first-degree murder. The verdict reads, we, the jury in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Sagon Penn, not guilty of the crime of first-degree murder.
It's crazy because there's just some years that I could see and remember so vividly, like 1992, when they rolled out the Dream Team and they was smacking teams by 50. Nike had rolled out one of my favorite shoes, still to this day, the Air Maestro. Or even 1994, when Def Jam would start the process of trying to pair two of the hottest artists at that time from two of the hottest collectives and brand it the month of the man. Or even the tragedy that would occur at the end of the NBA season when the New York Knicks would lose a 7-game series in the NBA Finals to the Houston Rockets. But the earliest of those years that I could remember is probably going to be 1985. It was almost like the time of the mics, and icons were being made every day. Mike Tyson would make his boxing debut on March 6, 1985. Michael Jordan would win the Rookie of the Year, and Michael Jackson was making little kids faint just by seeing him in other countries. The Chicago Bears would go on to win a Super Bowl with one of the most memorable teams and one of the most memorable players I could remember, William the Refrigerator Perry. And one of the baddest niggas to me was this dude that would walk around with a whole bunch of jewelry on and one of the worst haircuts ever, named Mr. T.
You know where he lives? You ever seen him before?
No.
Then he's a stranger, and you got no business being around him. Now everybody listen up. We're gonna talk about strangers. You gotta learn how to deal with them. You gotta. Spike ran into a couple of bad strangers, and we almost never saw him again. I want you to get your mother, your daddy.
Nah, this nigga was a big deal.
You know there's soldiers of fortune, helping people in need. Pretend that you're Hannibal, Murdoch or Bates, or maybe B.A. Baracus. You know each one is a case. Each is so separate.
Y'all really think I'm bullshitting?
I know Cool, and Cool's teaming up with a good balanced breakfast.
Teaming up with Mr. T cereal. It's getting on the team that knows how cool breakfast can be. You get a crispy corn taste with a touch of brown.
Aight, my fault. I'm sure y'all get it. But those was my shits. I had to slip those in there. But with me being a kid and all at that time, I can't remember exactly, but my only worry was probably whether I was going to get something for my birthday or for Christmas, with how much a horrible student I was throughout the entire process. But unbeknownst to little old me, back in Brooklyn, all across the world, major shit was brewing.
A sports update brought to you by Texaco. Now from ABC News in New York, Dick Schaff.
Good evening. Calvin Peete, the most successful black golfer ever, won his most significant victory, the Tournament Players Championship, closing with a 66 marked by brilliant shot making and putting.
You're listening to continuing coverage. This is a special KSDO News presentation, coverage of the verdict in the Sagon Penn.
In the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship game, Old Dominion, after trailing Georgia by as many as 9 points, took the lead for good with less than 5 minutes to play on Tracy Claxton's layup. Claxton had 17 points, 20 rebounds. Now this.
Well, George, the jury has come back in with a verdict in the Sagon Penn murder trial. At the moment, Judge Ben Hamrick, who has been handed the verdicts, there are 6 counts, he has been handed the verdicts by the jury foreman. He looked at them. Then he asked the attorneys to come up and look at them as well. That is what is going on now. The 2 attorneys, Michael Carpenter representing the district attorney, Milton Silberman representing murder defendant Sagon Penn, now looking over the verdicts, and we expect to hear those verdicts momentarily. The 4th floor of the north wing of the San Diego County Courthouse, as you might imagine, is just...
The Baltimore Stars, defending champions of the USFL, ended Houston's unbeaten string. Houston's record-setting quarterback Jim Kelly threw for 2 touchdowns and almost 400 yards, but Kelly also threw 3 interceptions. And this one, Baltimore's Mike Lush, turned into a touchdown for the Stars.
Looking over the verdicts that the jury took 26 and a half days to deliberate on. 26 and a half days, this following a 3-month trial. What I'm going to try to do is listen to the verdicts with one ear and then report to you as they come down. Count 1 now. First-degree murder. First-degree murder.
It was in effect a Jimmy Connors tennis tournament played on his courts, sponsored by the investment firm for which he does commercials. But nobody told Yvonne Lindell in the near court, who took the tournament championship from Connors in straight sets.
Not guilty of first-degree murder. Count 1 of 6 counts. First-degree murder, not guilty. Count 1, first-degree murder involving the victim Thomas Riggs. The verdict reads, not guilty.
Now, y'all know I'm a how about if I told you kind of guy. And an act that I'm almost for sure would warrant the death penalty today, nearly 40 years later. Well, how about if I told you there was a guy that was pulled over for a routine traffic stop. He was somehow removed from his vehicle by the police. Somehow he would end up being beat by said police. During the course of that beating, he would somehow get control of one of the officer's weapons, smoke him, pop his partner and the ride-along, steal their patrol car, turn himself in for it, take the case to trial, and beat it. No, that shit really happened. Shout out to Gully TV for the alley.
I believe that every person should have a right to a fair trial. It is not my place to make judgments. The police department investigated this situation. The district attorney charged the man with murder.
And what is your plea?
The suspect and his grandfather came in, and his grandfather said that his grandson wanted to turn himself in.
Did he say for what?
He just said that he had shot an officer.
It would be an entire decade before NFL Hall of Famer O.J. Simpson would go on to captivate and seemingly divide the entire nation when he and his team of high-priced lawyers would be acquitted for a crime that he claimed he did not commit in what looked like to me at the time a slam dunk case, with that verdict pretty much shocking the world, white and black. So I could only imagine the temperature of the people when it was an unknown 23-year-old on trial for bodying a cop with a public defender that admitted to doing it.
Exact location. I'm the ride along with Riggs. 2 officers down. I'm the ride along and I've been shot. I don't know the location. Where have you been hit?
The fact that Sagon Penn was found not guilty on those counts does not make Donovan Jacobs guilty.
The verdict, CR 74094 in the People of the State of California versus Sagon Penn. Verdict: we, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant Sagon Penn not guilty of the crime of voluntary manslaughter in violation of Penal Code Section 192 as charged in the amended information, victim Thomas Riggs. Dated July 10, 1987, signed Howard C. McDowell.
And cried together some days, and it all comes out in the end that it worked, that he wasn't guilty. And if he had been, we would have found him guilty. And I think the community needs to get behind us now and say the decision has been made, like Mike and Debbie and the rest of them have said, and stand behind us and say, you were there, you heard it all, you witnessed the whole thing, and you've made your decision. Now let's go on and let's make San Diego a better place for our kids to grow up in, and just a better place to live.
We've been through 2 years of this. The jury in this instance had ample opportunity to air all of the facts of the case, and they came to a conclusion that Penn was not guilty after almost a month's deliberation. And I think at this point that it would be wise on our part not to go forward for a third time.
Despite the initial celebration and joy that came with his 1985 acquittal, Sagon Penn's life after would be far from a glory story, as he continued to grapple with the repercussions of his past and the challenges of rebuilding his life. I mean, after they plaster you across the local and even the national news for killing 2 white cops, shit just don't go back to normal. And it's crazy, with him nearly escaping an almost inevitable death penalty sentence with his acquittal, it seems like that exact moment will mark a downward spiral, as on June 1st, 1989, just 4 years after being acquitted of the charges, Sagon Penn would find himself back in legal trouble. Despite the previous triumphs in court, he would be arrested again and find himself charged with another attempted murder, after he was said to attempt to try to strangle the boyfriend of an ex-girlfriend of his by the name of Donna Parks. And it would be this situation that would mark the beginning of a new chapter of legal challenges and personal turmoil that Sagon would face. It would be just 2 years after that, almost at the top of 1991, on January 11th, when the legal troubles would continue for Sagon Penn, who would now change his name to Misi Parks. The name change, that would look to be something like a fresh start for Sagon Penn, wouldn't do Oba so much, as he would continuously face harassment from not only the San Diego Police Department, but also the justice system. He would be sentenced to 360 days in jail for battery and for violating his probation. That stemming from convictions that he would have from altering court documents and malicious mischief. Now, despite attempts by his attorney to argue for psychiatric care instead of incarceration, but Parks, or Sagon Penn, would be sentenced to serve the time behind bars, with some local activists who would support Sagon Penn saying that the verdict underscored the ongoing challenges that he would face post his acquittal. So, if fighting for your life after getting fingered for smoking 2 cops don't drive you crazy, I can guarantee you the police harassment on the streets will, but if that don't, once you get locked up, man, listen. Now, after getting released from that nearly 1-year sentence, Sagon Penn seemed to live his life in quiet, at least for the next decade, all the way up until the tragic day of July 5th, 2002, when Sagon Penn, who was only 40 years old at the time, would be found dead, with his death ruled a suicide. And despite beating them charges in 1985, it just seems like Sagon Penn's life never really returned to normalcy. His struggles with mental health, legal entanglements, and things people don't think about when you beat the establishment, stuff like social marginalization, where ultimately all of those things playing a part in his untimely demise, with the circumstances surrounding his death raising questions then and even now, more than 20 years later. Now, y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real, trill, spill shit is dropping. Y'all make sure y'all get in the comment box and let me know exactly what y'all think on this story. I really want to say it's only 3 times in history where black people had some shit like this happen. And that's going to be the OJ situation, that's going to be Barack Obama winning the presidency, and that's going to be this. What else y'all got? Definitely want to say salute to the boy Gully TV for pointing me in this direction. Y'all get in the comment box. Y'all let me know what cities we need to go to, what stories we missed, what we got wrong, what we need to cover, all of that. Y'all tapping with me directly on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. And until the next slide, it's your ace Popalot. Salute the almighty mob.